Welcome to the Centurion's Path, a podcast about the life and the trials and tribulations of those who serve. This podcast is about the heroes who protect our communities. To truly understand the path of the protector, tune in with AJ DeAndrea and John McDonald, two nationally known leaders who live the Centurion's Path every day.
Thank you all for joining us today. To our sponsor for today's podcast, Safe Haven Defense, preserving property, protecting lives, providing peace of mind. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm back for another episode of the Centurion's Path. It's our last episode of the year. We're excited that we've got a great guest today, and we're going to have a really good conversation about life, service, and I think some mental health conversation about how we keep ourselves safe and sane and healthy and happy. And this time of year, that's pretty important. So I'm really excited that this is our sixth episode. I still can't believe it. We've made it through six of these. We have
who would have thought?
I'm shocked every time we do it. So it's fun, but we get to talk to really cool people. Today we get to talk to Raul Rivas, and AJ, you know Raul really well, and I can't wait to hear the two of you have this amazing conversation, because as we know, you do this work for a long time, and as Dr. Nicoletti says, the ghosts of the dead pile up in you. And those chapters in that book, they get pretty heavy. So how do you keep yourself in a good place, and what does that mean, and how do you find help and hope? So that to me is a really good conversation to have. I'm really excited that we're having it today.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that ability to keep yourself healthy and moving forward is relationships, especially in this line of work. And I've got a pretty cool friendship with Raul, and I was trying to think this morning before we started, how long have we known each other? It's got to be going on close to a decade.
I was going to say we're probably 2015, 2014, I think we met somewhere in that realm, because it was big. And I of course, kind of relate to Pulse. I met you before Pulse. Yes. And I remember because I called you right after Pulse happened. So, and Pulse was 2016. So I'm thinking it was a year or two before that. So, yeah. So we're going on 10 years.
Going on 10 years, yeah. And, you know, relationships are huge. And we'll get into that here probably in a little bit about that phone call right after the event took place. But Raul, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? I know you've retired after an incredible career, but just kind of fill them in on your background and you know, where you raised, how you ended up down in Orlando, and all that.
Well, first, thank you for having me on. I appreciate John, AJ, Brett. Thank you guys for having me on. First, I want to say it made me laugh just now inside when you said I'm retired. I just smiled. You know, I smile now when people say, "Hey, you're retired?" Yeah, I am. You know, so it's kind of cool to say that. So, yeah, I'm an Orlando guy. I mean, I was born in New York, you know, in Manhattan, but we moved to Florida when I was 9. Yeah. You know, so I've been here for 40 something years, you know, so I'm a Floridian, you know, and more, to be more specific, I'm an Orlandoan. I mean, and that we moved to Orlando, the south side of Orange County. You know, so I went to elementary here up through, you know, high school, and ended up going to college up in Rhode Island, and you know, did a couple years in Rhode Island, and I joined the Army Reserve in the middle of that, you know, just trying to, you know, get ready for the next couple of years of college. Took a break from college, and I was going to transfer down here and start going, you know, getting ready to enroll and that kind of stuff. And Desert Storm happened. So we got called up to go out to the desert, you know, and ended up doing like 9 months out there in the sandbox. And it was kind of out there. Just you have those lonely nights, and I'm contemplating the meaning of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a young man, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do, and whether school was my path or not to continue going to school right at that time. So, and the police thing kind of got thrown out there, and I was like, man, that sounds like a pretty cool deal, and I've always been one to, I want to help people, and the team thing. And I played sports all through my life, so that really spoke to me. So helping people and the team aspect and having that brotherhood, if you will, brotherhood, sisterhood. So I came back home and I started throwing applications in just to see. I got a job, and I'm going to date myself here. I got a job at Circuit City, and working there. Not anybody young will watch that like, what's that? So
Right. Yeah.
that was the Circuit City for anybody. That was the Best Buy of the '90s. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that's about as close as you can get, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
the Best Buy of the '90s. So, and I put applications out there, and shocked that Orlando PD, called me up and said that they were interested, and I was in the academy at 21 years old, and I was actually in my first phase FTO program when I turned 22. And I never forget that, so I was early coming into the profession, and I dove in, man. I loved it. I loved it. Being a young 22-year-old kid running and gunning through the streets of Orlando, and worked really hard, man. I mean, I fell in love with it. It made me work harder, and uh, had a great, great, great career. Did 26 years Orlando PD. I retired from them. I went to work for FDLE, which is the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I just did not like it. It was just not for me. I did about 5 months there, and hey guys, I appreciate it, but this is just not a good fit. Left there, and at the same time when I left there, and I was already kind of hooked up with Jason and Mike with NNF, so I was doing a lot of that stuff, which that just kind of really worked out good for me. So I had things to do. So I was traveling around the Midwest with them. And then I get a call from the state attorney's office, the Ninth Circuit here in Florida, which is Central Florida, Orange and Osceola County. They wanted me to be on her protection detail and be a deputy chief for the investigations unit. So sure, did that for a hot year, and almost to the day. And while I was doing that, I was also approached by, and I was already doing presentations, because Pulse had happened, and had my mental health journey. So I was doing presentations, here and there around the country, and Lighthouse Health and Wellness picked me up. And being as passionate I am about that subject, I resigned from the state attorney's office and went full time. Well, actually, full time. My contract with Lighthouse, and I'm also involved with Survive First. I gave you a real quick nutshell of what I'm doing right there. So that's me.
Yeah, that's
I wanted to say I got a 22-year-old son down in school at FAU. Love him to death. He picks on me, and I love it. Love every minute of it.
I'm sure you pick on him as well. I know you well enough to know.
He got it from somewhere.
That's a two-way street.
Absolutely, and I'm blessed to have both my parents. They live 5 minutes from me. My sister lives probably 15 minutes from me. They're actually between us, and just real blessed to have decent family around me.
That's that's a good thing, right? Especially to have that support system. But what a path, and truly what a career. And I've always been impressed on how you've been able to comport yourself and go forward and kind of push some of those things of what it means to actually do this job.
Yeah.
I mean, not the intrigue about the job, but actually to be able to do this job and to take care of yourself and take care of your brothers and your sisters, and what that whole thing means. And I know I've cherished our friendship over the years. But without, we'll get into some of that stuff towards the end, towards the latter part of your career, because I think that's really important. A few things I want to touch on. But I'd actually like to go back now to June 12th, 2016, and the Pulse shooting, and have you kind of walk through what you want to walk through, and what your role was, and kind of how that day played out.
Yeah, June 12th, 2016, 2:00 in the morning, suspect walks into the club. Immediately, well, he walks in with his gun. He immediately starts shooting. 49 people were killed. Patrol had their response, and he barricades in the back of the club inside a bathroom. SWAT, of course, was called out almost immediately. I did 18 years on the SWAT team. I was on SWAT when this occurred, so I responded. I'm not sure how much detail you want me to go into, but it was a horrific scene when I got there. The going into and I talk about this a little bit, but going into the club was something that our commanders, and I will say this until forever, that our commanders are second to none. I had some commanders that I'll follow the hell and back today, and they'll deny it, but we were told that every man need to go in there and kind of see what's going on, because we knew he's barricaded in the back. You need to know what's going on, what happened in the club to get the. So going into the club and seeing what we saw, the carnage, and I don't need to speak too much more about that, but it was horrific. So, but it also locked me in a little more. Sure. Maybe saw that. Okay, let's get the focus in this. This is not every SWAT call out is real. I'm not trying to say, but man, if there's any, there's no doubt this man is going to do what he said he's going to do, and if he says it, we're going to listen to it, and we got to, conduct ourselves accordingly. So, that was that. So, I'm going to skip a whole bunch of stuff, but we ended up blowing the back wall of the club in an effort to save more people. In the bathroom he was not in, he ends up coming out of the bathroom he was in, shooting. He shot at us. We shot him, killed him. That was the end of that. And there's a whole lot more to that, but yeah. So sure. I'm not sure. Sure. We only have an hour, man. So.
Right? No, I hear you. Your given day, one of many, and we talk a lot about your given day and being prepared for it. And obviously, that was one hell of a call.
Yes, sir.
Right? And to be able to step up, have the opportunity to serve your community, to be able to be there with your brothers, protecting them, right? Moving forward. Those are huge moments. And I don't think a lot of people understand when you go through those events, some of the things that you're dealing with. And I remember I was in Minnesota. I was in Minneapolis. I was teaching a class, and you called me. And we didn't talk very long. It was brief. But it was about that time is when the criticism started to come out about the call. And I don't care what operation you're on, what you're doing, what it is, there's always going to be that aspect. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to just pick your brain a little bit, because you are so dang resilient and just fed stats in what you're doing. How did you guys take that criticism, digest it, deal with it, but then shed it off your back and move forward, because that's what you're doing, right? You're in the process of making this world a better place, and partially from that. But talk a little bit about how you guys worked through some of that and took care of one another, because we've got a lot of young listeners that when these things happen, they look to guys like you to say, hey, how do we move forward, and share some of that, because that's really kind of what I want to get into as we go down the road of this conversation today.
For sure. I'll tell you twofold. Being one of the shooters, we're immediately relieve the duty, and you go home. So we quickly knew to kind of, okay, amongst us shooters, we're gonna kind of, and we a little group text, right? So we put a little group text, deal together, and we kept our communication going the whole time we were relieved, right? And that helped a lot, right? For us, the guys, so everybody else has to stay at work, and they immediately canceled, RDOs, canceled vacations, for the next almost 30 days plus. You were at work every day, so so there was two systems there, if not two systems, I thought that's a bad word, two networks, kind of working there, right? So I had the group of us shooters, and we were kind of keeping that group just, so we communicate with each other, because we were off, we were home, we were sitting on the couch, we were, doing whatever. So, and we didn't want to be, excessively bothering the guys that are at work doing work and that kind of thing. So that's why we kind of did that. But the big deal for me, being a veteran at that time, I had 15 years on the SWAT team already. One of the assistant team leaders, and just a leader on the team, I believe. And my big thing was telling everybody, we did everything we're supposed to do. We did it as good as we can, and I mean that. We did everything that as best as we could. We made some mistakes. Absolutely, we made some mistakes, but I coined, a chief of mine coined this phrase: we made warrior mistakes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be okay,
right?
And let's keep the communication open. Let's keep talking, but we cannot. We have to learn how to turn off the outside noise, and that's exactly what it was noise. There was I think we also were lucky in that regard that they really didn't have the SWAT team's face. It kind of, I think most everybody was kind of cool with the SWAT team. They were definitely criticizing the police department.
Yes, and let me preface that, because there was not a lot of heat coming about the SWAT team and what you guys did. And I probably should have prefaced that when.
No, it's because cool. So definitely the police department was catching a whole lot of heat.
Right.
And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but very quickly, if you know tactics, they went from an active shooter to a barricaded gunman, right? So, and that transition happens very quick. And there's two different tactics that are done depending on that going on there. So, people don't understand that. And once there's a line of communication opened up, that also slows things down. That also changes things, right? So those two things were present, right? We had a barricaded gunman, and we also had communication. And once that happens, things change, and that's exactly, because the criticism was that, we didn't go in
right
fast enough into the bathroom fast enough, because we actually went into the club as an agency, went into the club. And I'm not saying we did that absolutely correct either. I mean, there's I can tell you factually that there was some good response by the agency, and there was some bad, and again thing.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is a critical part of law enforcement tactics that a lot of people don't understand. And it is that mission transition that you're talking about right here. We operate off priorities, intel, and environment. When that intel changes to where this isn't an active shooting anymore. This is now a barricade, and a barricaded gunman is a much more technical problem that we have to deal with. And you still have in 2023 people that don't understand there is a switch. There's a switch in tactics, there's a switch in mindset, there's a switch in everything on how we deal with that when it changes, right? Paying attention to the intel coming in. And I know that I think it might have been this incident that really kind of started to push that conversation of mission transition to the forefront.
Right.
Because absolutely, you guys are now faced, this isn't an active shooter anymore. This is now a barricade, and those things, much more technical problem that was on your hands. So I'm sorry to interrupt. I get a fire in my belly because, you know, I have that whole conversation and that whole course I do on mission transition, and somewhere along the way, we still, not everyone, but there are some entities that don't understand that this thing can start as an active shooting, but then it may change.
Yeah. And just to add to your point and to be just a little more technical, right, is barricaded gunmen with hostages.
Yes.
Right. So we got to add that factor in there. Right. So and just goes right to what you're saying. Every one of those additional factors can change how we're going to attack it, you know, and it may change our tactics. So let me fast forward. Then the bomb threat, him wearing a bomb vest, that changes things. Right. Now we get intel that there may be 4 bomb vests and he's putting them on the hostages. That changes things. You know, so each time we got to change up what we were thinking about doing because he's added something. So yeah, to your point, everything kind of, as it progressed, it changed while we were doing things. So yeah, we have to, and again, and throughout all that, there's communication happening between us and between him and the negotiators.
Right.
So, and that changes things depending on what intel you get from that, you know? So yeah, there was a lot that's happening.
Right.
How do you shut down all that noise in the aftermath? I mean, you talk about it's just noise, but how do you as an officer and a leader help your team turn that noise off?
Yeah, not easy. And I can't say I've been to this my only huge national event I've ever been involved in. I don't want to be involved in another one, but you know, there was some obstacles. You know, talking to your family and letting your family know that your news may come around and you have no comment. You know, talking to your kids, the news may come around and you have no comment, and for your kid to call you and with a panic because you saw a white van come around the neighborhood. You know, the noise is real loud right then, you know, and so we dealt with it one at a time, you know, as those little obstacles, as the noise got louder, we kind of dealt with the issue and kind of brought it back down best we could. I laugh, I'm going to say this and guys are going to laugh at me, but the team kind of nicknamed me the voice of reason. And I try. I tried to stay even keel, you know, and I think we all, you know, I have my person that I go to on the team that's my sounding board and brings me back down, you know, because I'm as guilty as the next guy, you know, talk through it, you know, and realize that it's not that loud, but yeah, it's not easy. I'm trying to. I had a couple times where I almost lost it, you know, but I'm happy to say between my brother Scott Smith and Mark Canty, those two guys were my rocks, and I think I in a couple of instances I was theirs, and when it got real loud, they would call them guys, and bring me back down, let me know everything's gonna be all right.
Yeah, it's those relationships, right? And having it with the right individuals. Yeah, I remember when you called me, I could hear in your voice some of that anxiety, and I know we didn't talk much about the shooting because I mean it had literally like just happened. You just kind of gave me a snapshot, but I think we kind of walked through kind of what was going to take
And
place.
that was my thing, AJ. I just it's a national thing, and uh, let me back up a little bit. When the incident happened and it was over, you know, we got whisked away and we're waiting for all the alphabet boys to show up to do their thing, and then they send us home. Did my job. I was good. I slept like a baby. I had no problem. Didn't realize how big of a deal this was until the next day. Whatever time it was, I happened to be driving down. Not happened, excuse me. We had to drive downtown because the commander, again, kudos to him, had a mandatory meeting. Every SWAT person had to come, so we're driving downtown, and I saw, man, it must have been 1,000 people in an area of downtown on a Sunday afternoon, excuse me. Just it's a ghost town, on Sundays. It's a ghost town there. It's an industrial area, So I'm driving this thousand people out there. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Then I get to where we're at and to the FOP lodge, and TVs are on, and I'm seeing nothing but what happened at Pulse. I'm like, holy cow, this thing is huge. And the people I saw, they were at the blood bank. I forgot it was there. They were all trying to get blood for the victims that were in the hospital. So, yeah, this thing was huge. I had no idea how big of a deal this was. So, I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, this thing was a lot bigger than I thought. And what was the original question? I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, we were just talking about the phone call that we had
Yeah.
and kind of preparing for what was to come.
Right. So that's when I realized how big it was. So then I was like, holy cow, like what's next?
Yeah.
And that's where, and then, the news reportings were what they were, and already the criticism were coming out. And that's why I was like, AJ, what's next?
Right.
And this is what's going on. And I just didn't know, and that was, talk about the noise, talk about being loud, just the not knowing. I've been involved in some stuff, but at the local level, so this being as big as it was, it was a little scary.
Yeah, no. And that's kind of how it happens. I remember CNN called me and they wanted me to comment and critique the day, and I'm like, you got the wrong guy.
Right.
I'm not going to, because the media, right, wrong, or indifferent, and it's more wrong, certainly, but they want the story, and the more issues they can try to dig up, the longer that story lives, right? But yeah, this was certainly a big one, and the criticism, I think there's always room to criticize these operations. When we get into an actual after-action review, a factual discussion about what happened, and we emphasize what we did well, because that's important. Those are the building blocks that we keep moving forward. And then we get into the critiques about, okay, this is what we could have done better, so that we can push those lessons learned out, so that when the next one happens, right? Those are fair. Those are the way things should happen. Mm-hmm. The quick snap to judgment. Oh, we've got limited information, not understanding all the intricacies of what has taken place during the day, and a narrative gets set. Mm-hmm. And then that becomes much harder. And I think that's part of what the first responders struggle with is, especially in law enforcement, we deal in a world of facts. Of this is what happened, this is what we document, this is what we know, this is what we can speak to. Mm-hmm. And those facts don't travel fast enough, which I understand. It's hard. There's investigations, there's things going on, taking place. But individuals will grab certain parts of the narrative and push it, and then we get this urban lore kind of what happened. We saw that at Columbine. We've had that conversation 1,000 times, and a little bit of this call as well. And that's extremely frustrating. And I've tried to give young officers the advice to say, hey, listen, just let the mud settle, let the water clear. The truth is going to come out, maybe not as fast as we want it to. But in today's day and age with social media and as fast as things happen, it's hard for these guys. Do you have any advice when they're faced with some of this stuff? We've talked about relationships. We've talked about some of that. But, how to take care of themselves. Because we can't control the narrative.
Yeah, we and that's absolutely, I think you hit on the head of, there's a lot of things that we just can't control, and you can't, it's hard as it, and it's easier said than done, but you got to kind of let those things do what those things are going to do, and like you said, let it clear, let the investigation go. Once the incident, whatever it is over, you need to go into self-care mode, like whatever that means. Which I'm going to give you right from the, as soon as the incident's over, maybe going back to the detective bureau and taking the gun belt off, taking the shirt off and the vest off, and just blowing it out, and that decompression type, phase, right? Having a person that can just be there and be the one that's going to say, what do you need right now? Right. And because that may just be that decompression and a slice of pizza and a Coke, and you might be good for a minute, and just kind of get you, just to get, what do you need right now? Right. And then making sure, and this is what I would hope every agency, when we're talking about these traumatic incidents, whether it be just a horrible death that you may have witnessed or seen, or anything with the kids. That's my Achilles. With the kids, whatever it may be. Hopefully, the agency knows that, have that person there with you that's going to take you through some of this process, or at least be there with you. Because once that's done, there needs to be some type of debriefing type done, right? And that needs to happen. You want to do something kind of fairly quickly, and then later on you want to kind of check on the person and make sure they're okay, and make sure that they have a support system. If not, maybe we become that support system, right? I'm talking about at home, right? So, we got to take care of ourselves in that manner, and we've got to look after one another, because it's very easy to get so caught up that you don't see you need help.
Yeah.
And we've got to be able to we got to be our brother's keepers. We got to be able to come back and say, hey, AJ, you need anything, I'm here for you when you're ready. AJ, hey, you're acting different. You're becoming a little bit of an asshole. Excuse my language. Can we curse here?
We can curse.
Okay.
You're fine.
Sorry about that.
But that's not the first, so that ain't gonna be the last.
Okay. But we need to take care of each other in that way, because and I can name you the best instance I've got, and it's attached to Pulse, is Napolitano. He was a guy that got shot in the helmet, and God bless, he's okay, but this guy that didn't drink, and was just a good, wholesome dude, and a few months later, man, he just changed.
Yeah.
And it was because of his partners said something's wrong. And they saved his life. Got no doubt they saved his life because they had the courage to say something's wrong with him. Something's got to get done.
Yeah.
And that takes courage, because you know how many times we as first responders, we as especially cops, will see, and I'm going to pick on you, AJ, but yeah, AJ's an asshole. He wouldn't always be, yeah, he's turning into an asshole, but just keep walking.
Yeah.
So both those have got to be true. We got to take care of ourselves, and we got to take care of one another, and both take a lot of courage. I'll submit to you, they take more courage than doing the stuff we do on the street. Because, when it comes to saving a life of a citizen on the street, when it comes to defending our own and having to take a life, we'll do that a whole lot quicker. But going within the walls of our agency and saying something's wrong with AJ, or something's wrong with me, takes a whole lot more courage than the stuff we do out in the street.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly, right? And that whole self-care, and I would say that's even harder.
Oh, yeah.
Paying attention to your brother or your sister, saying, okay, that is hard, certainly, because those are tough conversations, right? But being in law enforcement and being that protector, being the one that's on scene, that's always in control, that is directing people what they need to do, managing the crisis, all of that, that's really hard when all of a sudden we look inside and say, hey, I'm the one in crisis.
I'm the one.
Right? And probably, again, the most courage to say, hey, wait a minute, I need a break. I need some help. I need, whatever that is. And you were spot on with all that. We actually had that phrase at our agency, on my brother's keeper, on my sister's keeper.
That's right.
And it wasn't just about the day-to-day ins and outs or the big tactical thing. It was trying to take care of one another. And sometimes that gets lost on individuals, about the importance of all that.
It does. I'll tell you, if I can just jump in real quick, AJ, is that a lot of times when it comes to self-care, this has just been my experience, and the people around me that are really into the mental health game. A lot of people have to hit their rock bottom, whatever their rock bottom is, before they'll decide that they need, they raise their hand and say, I need some help, right? And hopefully they've got that person that's been the guy that's saying, hey, AJ, when you're ready, I'm right.
Right.
AJ, hey, when you're ready, I'm right here. So after that fifth time, and then you've hit that rock bottom, AJ, I'm right here. And then hopefully that'll happen, right? So, but unfortunately, most that I've seen have got to hit their rock bottom, whatever that may be, and it's different for everybody, right? But that's usually when, we're ready to raise our hand and try to get some self-care and say we need some help. And it's unfortunate, though, because we're out here and I try to tell everybody, hey, don't repeat the steps that I did. I definitely messed some things up and took me down a bad path, and the partners that I have next to me doing in this mental health game, we do it to hopefully bring awareness and tell people, don't, recognize this path and don't walk it. I'm telling you, it's bad, but still, people still, they've got to walk their own path, and hopefully we've been around enough when we can tell them that we're here when you're ready. We're here.
Yeah.
Let's take a break for a minute.
Yeah.
in defense, preserving property, protecting lives, providing peace of mind.
When you, maybe for both of you, self-care, I think, is absolutely essential, but can you talk a little bit about family care, the importance of you're going through what you're going through, your family's going through it with you. They may even understand it a little bit less than your struggle and to get through. How do you help your family along this path as you're trying to do self-care?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. Good question. For me, I wasn't good at it. And I think I'm not a unicorn in that sense. I didn't talk to my family about stuff like that. I didn't tell my family about the bad stuff. If I ever talked about the police work, it was mainly, in a joking manner. I tell them the funny stuff, or I would make whatever just happened into, take the funny out of it, and say that part of it. So, and I didn't know. So I thought I was the best actor in the world. I equated myself to Denzel because I would never tell them any of the stuff like that. So, and as I was changing, I thought again, I could feel things, going wrong in my life and inside myself. But I thought I was a pretty good actor. It wasn't until I went to get some therapy and we talked about family stuff and we talked about my son. We talked about how they could probably see some of the changes. And when I went back to my son, who was close to 16 at the time, and told him that dad was going through some stuff and dad had some bad thoughts, for him to tell me that he knew something was wrong, let me know that I was a shitty actor now and I was being a shitty dad, and that I definitely failed at having those conversations with my family, and letting them in on some of what was going on inside of me. And it's a shame because I have, my dad's a Vietnam vet and absolutely my best friend between him and my son. Uh, and him, my whole family, if I'd ask them to do anything, they do it. That's not the issue. It just, I think I fall into that category of just not wanting to burden them with some of the shit that was going on in my head and the stuff that I had seen and done. So I thought twistedly, I thought I was doing the right thing, so now, and this is of course, my towards the very end of my career, I let them in. So I'm not the poster child to tell you how to talk to your family. I can tell you how to do it now, but I was not back then. So what I would tell people now, and what I tell people now is you gotta find your way. You gotta find a way to let them in, and how much or how you're gonna do it. Because I am not sitting here telling anybody to tell your family about the gory details of whatever, right? So, but what I am saying is you've got to find the way that works for you to let them in a little bit. It's going to do two things, right? You're letting them be part of your life, and they'll get some understanding on that, right? And what you're going through. And number two, you're releasing that pressure just a little bit. You're letting some of that out, and we've got to do that because I'm telling you, you keep it bottled in, and there's all these damn different metaphors and it's sayings and stuff, but you keep that shit bottled in, it's gonna explode one day. It has to come out in some way. And the bad thing is that, what's that look like when it comes out? And we can, alcoholism, anger, depression, anxiety, all those things are how that stuff decides to come out. So, yeah, I'm not sure I'm answering the question completely because I'm not the poster child for that. But I do say to everybody, you've got to find a way. And I don't sit here and tell you how to do it or what way works or how much, but you've got to do something because every family out there, uh, they want to help. They want to be there for you. They want to listen. We have to let them.
Yeah.
That's,
I'll just echo a few things that you said. Absolutely right. And each family's different. Each interaction is different. And of course, I never shared the intricate details of some of those larger calls or some of the things that I went on. But I did find that it was important to let them into your world a little bit, right? And these were hard lessons learned, going through my career on what I would share and what I wouldn't share. But, and here you are, the protector. And so you just went through this nasty ordeal, and as heinous as it was, you don't want that on your family, right? So you're trying to protect them. So that is a fine line as far as what you share with them. And I kind of had a rule as things went on. I would kind of talk just about the high level things. If something came on the news and the girls had a question about it, I would try to redirect them with that. Talk to them a lot. They knew that mental health was a big deal. I mean, Dr. Nicoletti, he came to family gatherings, so they knew that how much I valued mental health and taking care of one another. But one thing that I did do, and I'm not saying this is what everyone should do, is I told girls that when they turned 18, we could sit down, go wherever, and they could ask me anything that they wanted. Because at that point you're an adult, if you're an adult, go off to war, whatever. And those were hard conversations, really, because they wanted to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Some of it, they were a lot better, right? And so we know that people that didn't experience the event, they get these little blips, this little bit of detail, and then they fill in the blank. And typically, especially when it's family members, they fill it in a lot worse than what it was. And so, helping them along that path if you can. But at 18, they got to ask me the intricate details. And then at 18, they could start to come to some of the debriefs, and they would actually come and sit in and hear some of the debriefs. And afterwards, they said, well, the world's a lot clearer now, I'm not saying you don't do that with a 10-year-old, you don't do that with even a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, but that's huge. Yeah. And they learn how to deal with stress and crisis from watching their parents, right? And you need to set that, you got to put them on the right path of this is how, life happens. Life's hard. Sometimes really bad things happen, but we're not going to let those things define us. We're not going to let those things change who we are. We learn from them and we move forward to make this world a better place. And that was kind of the message that I always tried to give the girls.
Yeah, it's talking to the family is now I'm better at it. I've definitely learned through therapy and I need help, right? So I need to help on the communication. I had to say some things out loud, I didn't and we can go down the therapy route, but there's a lot of different modalities out there that help people. I just need to kind of talk some stuff out and go through some exercises and that kind of thing, and it helped me tremendously, and the family dynamic it's different now. I mean, my dad was my best friend then, and he's my best friend now, but we have different conversations now, periodically. My son, and this is what made me think about this, is that he's 22 now. So we have different conversations. I'm talking to a man now,
Yeah.
so it's a completely different conversation. And he saw, last year, the first time he saw one of my presentations, I brought him along, and hell, it was harder for me than it was for him.
Yeah.
I get to a part about talking about my son. That's what I just told you guys in reference to, talking to my son and having that conversation. And, it's my first time saying some of these things, at the whole presentation is saying this thing in front of him, and how I felt just having him tell me, Dad, I knew. It was harder for me to get through that presentation that time, him being in the room than any presentation I've ever done, uh, and it was kind of cool because a man stood up, my son, and gave me a hug, and that just made all the difference in the world. So yeah, it's of the utmost importance, because when this career is done, and we both say this, I, I would die, and I would have died for any one of my brothers and sisters on the job. But when that career is done, it's your family sitting there with their arms open, ready to love on you.
Yeah.
And not saying that my brothers and sisters are not there for me. I keep in touch with the guys on the SWAT team and guys on my unit, but it's my family that's here every day with their arms open and ready to help me in my second and third chapter. So that's what we got to remember. This is the job, and it's the greatest job in the world. But it's a job.
Right. Absolutely.
I think those second and third chapters are really amazing, as I'm learning. And,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The first chapter, it's like running hard, running fast, and climbing that mountain. The second chapter, third chapter, boy, it gets really good.
Yeah.
If you let it.
That's right. That's right. If you let it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like AJ's failing at retirement.
What's that? Oh yeah, I failed at retirement. I don't even. It's insane, but
I think I failed too. So.
Yeah, right. And so, lead us into some of the stuff you're doing with Lighthouse, and
yeah, for sure. So I got really lucky, man. I think I shared a little bit of that. Doing my presentations. The presentation thing kind of came about through Pulse being such a big deal. We got the PD got requests from all over the world to go ahead and brief that, and the good, bad, and the ugly, and so it was so much that they kind of divvied up, say, hey, need a few guys on the SWAT team that could go do some of these briefs, and of course the commanders they went to Sri Lanka and Dubai, and they sent us to Mississippi, right? So we so how that goes. So I'm doing a few of those, and meanwhile I'm going through my mental health journey. This is 2017 and 18, and I just, at the end of my presentation, I would just say, if you got something going on in your head, don't be afraid to get some help, and just something, real quick like that. And one day there was a guy in the audience, man. His name is Doug Monda. He happens to hear what I'm saying, and he finds me after I speak, and we hit it off. He's a Cocoa PD sniper and a Blackwater guy. And the young people don't know what Blackwater is. We'll talk about that later. So
sure.
Anyway, we start talking, and he, just point blank, what's your story? So I tell him everything that I'm kind of going through, and and everything, and he's like, you need to be telling that. And we exchanged numbers, and damn it, he called me, and he took me under his wing, and he's in the mental health field, and so he's a suicide survivor. He's one of those rare guys that put the gun to his head, pulled the trigger, clicked by the grace of God, hit the primer, just didn't go off. And saved by his agency. The chief just really stepped up and they saved him, and they brought him back, and true success story. But the journey to kind of get help and the red tape and everything was really crazy, and he's like, it's got to be a better way. So he founded the Survive First Foundation. I was talking a little bit, John, about that. Basically, it's a nonprofit that just does whatever we can to take the no out of the process.
Yeah.
Whatever the no may be, we're going to try to work to cut through that and make sure that whatever first responder gets the help that they need. And so through that, we hooked up with Lighthouse Health and Wellness, which is a mental health and wellness app that it's 100% customizable and they're confidential. So what we're able to do is put all the resources in your region, in your area, at your fingertips, and nobody has to know.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's amazing. I wouldn't be involved if I didn't believe in it. So I contract with them to just help push that mission that we're trying to do and hopefully save some lives. And I knock on wood and I count my blessings that we've been able to save lives. We know we're making a difference, and that's always you don't always get that, but we've been able to actually have some people come back to us and say, hey, this thing which you guys are doing, it helps save a life. And so that's two things I'm involved with right now, and I'm blessed, man. I can't tell you enough. It just it's what made me leave the state attorney job, and doing that cake gig, but because I'm just passionate about this, and if we can help save some of our brothers and sisters' lives, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it, buddy.
Trying, man, trying.
You're doing it. I see the way that when you're up there presenting and talking, the way that people gravitate to you, and you're doing a hell of a job. And I'll tell you, I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for the friendship. I'm grateful for some of the conversations, and
likewise,
you're doing incredible things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You bet.
And I tell you, man, I a lot of my presentation, I've watched you a lot, and I've mirrored a lot of what I do from watching you and just your presence. So I thank you for everything you've done in your mentorship, man. It's meant a lot to me. So thank you.
Well, and vice versa, brother. But thank you very much.
I'm so honored that you came on our show, and it was just a pleasure to meet you. I can't wait to see your presentation.
Yeah. I'm not sure when we're doing it again, but
we'll find
yes,
places
sir.
for you to do it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
That I can help with.
Absolutely.
Well,
but thank you guys for having me. I can't tell you enough, man. Yeah. It's been great. So
this is a perfect time of the year to have this conversation, I think, for so many in around the country, but especially in the first responder world. And
absolutely.
I think it's really needed, and I appreciate it very much. And I wish you both a Merry Christmas.
Same to you. Same to you.
New Year.
Yeah, and a Happy New Year, sir. Absolutely.
AJ, you want to take us out?
Yeah, you bet. Again, thank you for your time, buddy. When we started this journey a few months ago, we kind of threw some names out, and yours was right up there at the top of the list. Yep. And so I'm happy we got you on, and I'd like to bring you on again here to maybe discuss some other things, and just get caught up. So, but we close every one of our podcasts out with a quote, and you've actually had a drink with me doing this quote in real life, right? But goes back to the Roman legions, goes back to the centurions. But here we go to us,
the
centurions.
That's okay.
And those like us. Damn few left.
Cheers. I didn't know to have a drink, damn it.
That's right. I'm having coffee and it's cold, but it is what it is. So
thank you to Safe Haven Defense for sponsoring today's podcast and for walking the Centurion's path with us. Safe Haven Defense, preserving property, protecting lives, providing peace of mind.